Okay, Saturday afternoon at the 2021 NCGOP State Convention. This session began early, as I told you before. About 15 minutes early. I think we debated Saturday morning to come back at 1:30. That was shot down, but the chairman said, look, let's try and all get back at 1:45 so we can start business before 2 o'clock. And we started business right around 1:45. Prior to that, I walked in the convention hall about 15-20 minutes early, like I normally do, because I want to get my seat and not be in a big traffic jam. Not literally, but more as a person walking in this facility was just ridiculous. And I'll talk about that more in my executive committee meeting video, which is actually very interesting later on. The chairman of my county, who's a great gentleman by the name of David Gleason, sent out everybody in our delegation. We had about 40 people this year attend the convention from our county. He sent out emails saying, let's meet about 1:30. I think he said about 1:30 or something. 1:45, I think is what he said. But then the start time got pushed earlier, so I didn't know if we were meeting or not. But fortunately, David Gleason, who's done a really good job as chair here in Guilford over the last 2.5 years now, saw me in the convention hall and told me follow him over to a breakout room. And in the breakout room, about half of the 40 people for my delegation, we gathered around and we heard from the candidates for vice chair of the party. And we heard from Sherry Lynn Womack, but we did not hear from Susan Mills, who had agreed to come to our little breakout session, but I guess had a thing last minute or something. Who knows? But I think that might have been one of the reasons why Guilford County voted like by a 2-1 margin. Like 66% of 2/3 of us voted for Womack and only a third voted for Mills. That might have been a continuing factor because Susan Mills decided not to meet with the Guilford County delegation, the third largest county in the state, by the way. I don't know if we had the third largest delegation convention, but in terms of overall population in North Carolina, we're the third largest, obviously. So the Saturday afternoon session was, I guess you can call it a business session, but the only business that we did was we held the election of officers. And I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. First, we started off with a message from Chief Justice Paul Newby. He says, look, this election was very hard fought. We won by only 409 votes. And he got a standing ovation when he was introduced. Had a great recount effort led by Chairman Watley, Philip Thomas, and Sarah Newby, who's his daughter, by the way. Nice plug there. We reopened the courts back on January 1st, and we eliminated 5 bureaucrats from his administration. And he says he's striving for the judiciary branch of North Carolina to be the Chick-fil-A of the state government. Then we heard from Mark Walker. The bell tolls 7 o'clock in the morning. Okay, it's done. Word from Mark Walker, running for U.S. Senate. And I gotta tell you, up until about last week, I was more of a Ted Budd fan, but now I'm kind of back to being even Steven with Walker and Budd. Reason being is because there was a candidate forum last week over in Durham. I was not able to attend, unfortunately. Like a lot of things in politics, I have to work during the exact time when these events are taking place, unfortunately. The convention is like my big trip of the year. But besides going down to Florida and seeing family in January, that's different. But, more of a personal trip is the convention. But Mark Walker attended the candidate forum. Ted Budd did not. Mark Walker raised a good stink about it. I say good stink, good smell, I should say, because he made a point about, well, there are multiple flights out of D.C. to North Carolina every day, to Raleigh-Durham International Airport. And Ted Budd said something about he was held up in Washington or had a flight delay or something. And Mark Walker called him out on the mat on it, so it's pretty good. Mark Walker, of course, used to be the lead pastor at Lawndale Baptist Church right here in Greensboro. He, of course, a person of faith, a warrior, a leader. He forced 23 resignations from the D.C. swamp, as they call it. He defunded Planned Parenthood, led the effort to defund Planned Parenthood and Obamacare, and has grassroots money over special interest money. Then we heard from, that's our Pat McCrory. Oh boy. Also run for U.S. Senate, said, look, when I was governor, we lowered the North Carolina unemployment rate, had the biggest drop in the history of the state. He also got a big love from George Foreman, who I found out recently is a Republican, believe it or not. Pat McCrory, George Foreman had this message saying, when you get knocked down, you get back up again. So that's what Pat McCrory is trying to do. If he's the Republican nominee, I'll vote for him. But other than that, I can't say much good about him. Recently, I'm filming this in early August. Last week, as a matter of fact, a couple weeks ago, there was an event in Greensboro. And of course, this organization called American Renewal Project, which is a Christian conservative organization, and it's an organization I want to be a part of. But unfortunately, y'all continue to schedule your events at like 12 o'clock on a weekday. And, need to schedule in the evenings and try to give me some advance notice, y'all, so I can attend. But yeah, not a good time to put events in the middle of the day. It's like, look, some of us in the Republican Party actually work for a living, okay? I mean, really. Not all of us are wealthy or retired or run a small business. We can make our own dang schedule. No, not all of us can. So stop trying to, schedule events like you think that everybody, like everybody has a free schedule all the time. Okay. Anyway, Madison. But this event, it's on the Daily Haymaker, by the way. The blog of the Daily Haymaker. Actual video of this event where Mark Robinson, the lieutenant governor here in North Carolina, was a guest speaker. Well, Pat McCrory made an appearance, and his job was supposed to just, make a brief introductory speech to introduce Mark Robinson. Did I say Mark Walker? No, Mark Robinson, lieutenant governor. And usually when a person introduces somebody to a crowd, usually their speech is probably no more than a minute, maybe 2 minutes. McCrory was up there for 10 minutes. And after 2 or 3 minutes, the moderator of this forum for Mark Robinson and a couple other people, said to him quietly, softly, that this is Mark Robinson. Some of the ones of, this is Mark's speech and everything like that, and but McCrory fired back, well, I drove an hour and a half to get here, and by golly, I'm gonna speak for a little while. Just a very a very jackass move, if I can say that. I was thinking of something a little vulgar, but no, I'm going to try to keep it clean. A jackass move, alright? Just acting like a complete mule, a donkey, a jackass. Which, by the way, if you ever watch Garfield and Friends from the 90s, that's how I figure out that when you call somebody a jackass, it's actually not a swear word, right? It's actually a type of donkey, a mule, Because Garfield is like, well, it's a donkey, a mule, or a jackass. It's one of those three types of donkeys or something. Anyway, then we heard from Madison Cawthorn of U.S. House District 11. Then we had Mark Robinson, Lieutenant Governor. His speeches are just, words cannot describe how good their speeches are. And certainly me trying to do a summary of what he talks about, or even trying to imitate, his speeches, I just can't do him justice. He's really good. Okay, then we had a motion to table resolutions until after the officer elections, because usually at the conventions you have you go through all your different committee reports and you have an opportunity to debate them. Rules, platform, planarization, resolutions. There's a motion made instead to have, and usually this is done every year for some reason. People just, unfortunately, on Saturday afternoons, they start getting in a hurry and just gotta go to my cocktail party and a bunch of bleh. But the motion passed. Of course, me and a few other people said no, but it passed. But okay, so now we go to officer elections. Miriam Chuk, outgoing vice chair, nominates Michael Whatley for a second term as chairman. Jonathan Fletcher of Gaston County, second nominee of Michael Whatley. For my notes, I don't know if they were speeches or not. I don't think there were for Whatley. Will Connect of New Hanover, second nomination of Whatley, and Yolanda Hill of Guilford County as well. Okay. Michael Whatley was voted in via acclamation. There was no vote taken, just, does anybody object to Michael Whatley serving a second term? And nobody objected. And nobody ran against him either. And, he's done... And I'm glad nobody did, because he's done a phenomenal job as chairman. And probably the thing I like about Whatley the most is that he is very accessible. He's like all over the state. Like one weekend he'll be in Asheville, and then the next weekend he'll be in Asheboro, and the next weekend he'll be in Manteo and the Outer Banks, and just all over the place. Goes to all kinds of events. And he's the chair. It's a far cry from when Robin Hayes was serving. Robin Hayes, you saw him probably 3 times a year. Once at convention, and then twice at the 2 executive committee meetings. But other than that, he would send his executive director everywhere else. But fortunately, Whatley, you're going to hear it right from... The expression is right from the horse's mouth. But I think calling Whatley a horse is vulgar. So don't, Hearing it straight from the source. There we go. That's a little better. But Whatley, in his speech, now going into a second term as chair, said that his biggest accomplishment was creating the Judicial Victory Fund. They raised $1 million. They swept I think there's 8 races for the state judiciary last year, and they all were won by Republicans. 10,000 volunteers, making 10 million voter contacts and knocking on 3 million doors. He spoke on the Trump dinner that was happening at the convention that night. It's going to have 4 times the impact of fundraisers in the NCGOP history. And then Whatley thanked his family and started crying and choking up a bit. And then he got a standing ovation at the beginning of his speech, and at the end of his speech got another one. I don't know if too many people in the 7 conventions I've been to have gotten 2 standing ovations. That's pretty grand. Okay. Okay. Nominations for vice chair. The vice chair candidate of Sherry Lynn Womack was nominated by Michelle Woodhouse of one of the counties in the Maryland area. I don't know which one, but she's the chair of District 11. She said, "We can see Georgia from her house, so we can also see Stacey Abrams." And the crowd went, boo. Yeah, anyway. Yolanda Hill and Lee Haywood of Guilford County seconded the nomination of Womack, and Richard Spear of Lincoln County also seconded the nomination of Womack. Okay. Kay Wilt of Moore County gave a brief speech on the nomination of Susan Mills as vice chair candidate. Susan Mills serves as a high school teacher. 10. She has seen the effect of critical race theory on students. This was also the second nominations of Mills were from John Stewart of Union County, Donna Williams of Wake County, and Tina Forsberg of Guilford County. These all 3 have been in the NCGOP for a while. Familiar names if you've ever watched any other convention videos on this channel. Okay, so Sherry Lynn Womack got to speak first because he did a drawing backstage, and Sherry Womack won the drawing. She says, and she gave a very impassioned speech. Her whole speech was like, she was like the female equivalent of Mark Robinson out there, speaking loudly, boldly, almost yelling every word, just very full of passion. It's great to hear her. I voted for her, by the way, too. She says, "Who would have thunk that we would ever have to go to a bank with a mask on? And, and not rob the bank either." Also, she says her platform stands on being a conservative, being a Christian. She says, "I love Madison Cawthorn as a congressman," and she says she even has food that's older than Madison Cawthorn. She also says, "I don't need a long list of titles. I have God." Wow. Susan Mills gave a more somber speech, but she says she's a true servant leader. She's been an event organizer at the national, state, and local Republican Party level. Organized speakers and event venues. She teaches at an 80% low-income school that has 100% free lunch. High school history teacher, I believe, is what she is. Cumberland County, I believe. Okay. So now timeline, right? At 3:05 in the afternoon, all the delegates begin voting. This is the very first time, well, I should know, 2 years ago we did the voting with the these little clicker things, like, not this, but something similar to this. Now we voted via a smartphone or a laptop device, and as soon as the voting begun, I knew this was going to happen. You have a stampede of people going to these various help desk tables, because most of the people that attend these conventions are about 20 to 30 years my senior. I'm 35, by the way. So I'm almost old enough to not be a young Republican anymore. So I'm kind of an old fogey too. But I, growing up, I've always had computers in school. Most of these people who are in there, 50s, 60s, 70s, even some 80-year-olds at the convention have not had the same access to technology that my generation has, obviously, to put it kindly. But they're not understanding how to vote. And there was a long line of people at these help tables. It was really, it's like almost like, oh my gosh, like there's that many people who don't understand. This was very basic technology. But okay, so 25 minutes later, Sergeant Arms starts escorting the delegates to their seats, and the chairman, Miller, said if delegates don't, convention chairman said, if delegates don't move, they'll be moved involuntarily or out of the convention hall. So this time they're tabulating the votes. We hear from Phil Berger, leader of the State Senate, and Tim Moore, Speaker of the House. Okay, and probably one of the most insulting moments of the convention, terrible moment of the convention, was when they did the Dearly Departed segment. What is Dearly Departed? Well, it's a time in the convention where the convention gives respect to those Republican activists that have passed away over the last year, since the last convention. Okay, now this year for Dearly Departed, they put all the names on one slide. This was like probably over 100 people on one slide. And not only that, but it's in small print. Small print. There's no music. And also, the names are not even listed in the convention program. So, in past years, Dearly Departed, they've had it not at a... They've had it, during this year's Dearly Departed, they were tabulating votes, and the whole convention was on edge, right? On the edge of their seats, dying to find out, no pun intended for Dearly Departed, by the way, dying to find out what the outcome of the race, of the vice chair race was. Previous years, you've had Dearly Departed on a Friday when no other business is being conducted, and the names are flashed one at a time, slide by slide, and there's a nice somber music bed playing over the presentation as well. This year, none of that. It was very insulting. If I knew, if that had been a member of my family or best friend of mine, close friend, I would have, immediately gone to Chairman Watley and be like, look, you got to fix this next year, man, back to what it should be. Because it was just very disrespectful, I thought, for Dearly Departed. Okay, now at 3:50, they were not done yet scheduling votes. So the convention chair, Billy Miller, called a soft recess. So then we had some people on the convention floor go to the microphone for various announcements. The first one was Representative Pittman for a point of personal privilege, thanking veterans. And then we had Harvey West announce an event on September 18th. This is in Plymouth. Not Plymouth, Massachusetts, Plymouth, North Carolina. Over towards the Outer Banks. The Down East Judicial Picnic. Last year, in the first year of the event, they raised $25,000. John Torbett of Gaston County made a motion. Okay. John Torbett of Gaston County, who apparently was in a hurry. I think he's a representative too. State Senate, State House, one of those. But made a motion to adjourn upon receiving the remarks from the winner. I was opposed to this, but the motion passed and was seconded by Will Connect of New Hanover. What are you doing, Will? Come on, man. Okay, Lee Haywood announced a gun raffle announcement. Gary Weaver from Pitt County just did a brief welcome to Pitt County announcement. And then Jim Womack talked about Liberty Fest on the 4th of July and Whitset, which is like between Greensboro and Burlington. Unfortunately, guess who had to work on 4th of July? Moi, right? So I couldn't attend. One of these years I'm going to. June 19th, there was a sock hop in Moore County, 50s and 60s sock hop dance thing. Point of personal privilege from Bill Ward, thanks to both candidates. And Roger Farina of Harnett County said he was looking for Trump dinner tickets. And then the chairman of Dublin County said the outgoing vice chair, Miriam Chu, deserves a round of applause. She's been the hardest working chairman that he's ever known, and he's been involved with the party a really long time. Okay. Now, Daniel Barry, who was the hero of Friday's business session, unfortunately on Saturday, he was the zero, or the jerk, I'm sorry to tell you, of Saturday's business session. Now, what did Daniel Barry do? Well, let me set this up for you, okay? It had already been announced that John Torbett had made a motion. It was seconded by Will Connect to, after the winner of the vice chair election had spoken, the convention will automatically be dismissed. Well, what Daniel Barry decides to do is go a step further than that, okay? So, and by the way, this is only 4:00 in the afternoon, right? Most Saturday business sessions, the earliest before this year that a Saturday business session was dismissed, at least in the 7 years I've been at convention, was about 5:30. Most years business session generally ends around 7. Couple of years, last in 2019, we were on the floor because voting was so tedious. We had 2 elections. We were not off the floor until about 9 o'clock. That's a little too late. In Greensboro in 2012, we were actually, the convention delegates, including yours truly, beat back 2 quorum calls, and we stayed in business session till about 8:30, till another quorum call was called, and that one was not defeated, unfortunately. But Mr. Barry, who I'm still waiting for to message me back via Facebook about plan organization, be involved in that. I don't know what happened, but I messaged him. He said, okay, can we talk tomorrow? And I don't know, I think it's maybe my fault. I didn't get back to him too much, but whatever. But but Mr. Daniel Barry of Union County says, let's suspend reading the vote totals until tomorrow's executive committee meeting. And guess what? Unfortunately, this motion passed by an overwhelming margin. It was by a voice vote. There was no stand vote. People were in such a bleeping hurry to see Donald Trump that Saturday business session in the afternoon, people just got so fixated on Trump. And I'm sorry, but look, I voted for Trump twice, okay? Yes, he did a great job as president, in my opinion, but I don't care. I don't care who the hell you have at the Saturday evening dinner. You still need to do convention business until at the very freaking least 6:30 in the evening. Okay? You need to have as many people have access and participation in the business session as you possibly can. And the only way that can happen is if you have an extended session on Saturday, because the executive committee people are in such a freaking hurry on Sunday mornings to get home. Some years you don't even have an executive committee meeting. Some years you can't even get the whole business thing done. But if you stay put on Saturday afternoon, you can actually get some things accomplished. And what an insult for Mr. Barrett even propose that the election results, which had, for at least every convention I've been to in the past, had always been read county by county, vote by vote, for those just be thrown away or postponed to Sunday. Oh boy, when we get to the executive committee meeting, oh boy, guess what happened to the executive committee meeting? It's going to blow your mind with this. But yeah, I was not happy about how Saturday's business session ended, okay? Now, Thomas Hill of Gates County had another question. He said, can you confirm that 4 votes from Gates County happened? Of course, it would have been a lot easier to confirm if we actually read the votes total by total. But Thomas Hill had to actually go up to the little help desk and find out that way. Would have been a whole lot more transparent to actually, and that's another thing, transparency. Like, it would have made the election a lot more transparent if people knew county by county what the vote was, besides just reading off a brief statement saying that Susan Mills had won because she had the higher weighted vote count. Now, actually, Susan Womack won more delegate votes, but because of this cockamamie weighted vote, Susan Mills won. And in her speech, she said that we need to be united as a party, and she's going to talk with Mrs. Womack about what her ideas are for the party, which I think is very good. And guess what time we adjourned? A record early 4:12 in the afternoon. Okay? And this final thing is going to blow your mind. Okay, I'm walking. Now, first of all, this convention room is so freaking small and packed that for everybody to get out, for the 1,000 of people that were there at least in the convention room, there were about, it probably took a good 10-15 minutes. So what I did was I just sat down for a few minutes to let everybody else, get out of the room pretty much. Because I was not going to stand up and wait 10-15 minutes, walk, 1 foot an hour to get out of the room. Because I do enough walking around my job. I'm on vacation here at the convention. I'm not going to do that. But this final thing will blow your mind. I'm walking out and I see this long line of people. It had to be at least a quarter, maybe even half mile deep for this. And they were waiting, security was very tight, obviously, with Trump in town. But, a line of people, probably at least a quarter of a mile long, is waiting outside in the 90-degree heat, 95% humidity, right? Waiting just to go in to dinner. And guess how long these people were waiting? These people were waiting for an hour and a half, 2 hours in the heat. It was crazy. Now, if they had listened to me, the convention body, and dismissed at 6 o'clock, probably wouldn't have this problem. You just go right in, probably. But, see, that's why you do not end the convention too early on Saturday. There you go. Now you know the rest of the story. And when I come back, we're going to talk about the executive committee meeting. Oh, boy, it's going to blow your mind. Bye-bye for now.